most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Question Reality. Question Reality with Priscilla Leona. Only on LA Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome to Question Reality. I'm your host, Priscilla Leona, and we are coming to you live from Studio City, California. And you can catch our show every Sunday from 5 p.m. to 5:50 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, our show is about informative entertainment, and it's done in a fun, upbeat style. And we try to have fun, upbeat guests to match that style. And we provide you with tips, advice, and resource information on how you can pursue a career in show business. And we have guests that work in various professions of the entertainment industry. So that means that we'll definitely have someone from a career that you're interested in sooner or later. If you want to know who will be on the show in the future, you can visit the Question Reality website directly, and that address is questionreality.us, not .com, questionreality.us. And if you want to check out any of our past guests, read their bios, and listen or download any of the shows, you can go on the website that you're on right now if you're listening to us on LA Talk Radio, and you can click on Schedule 1, the Schedule 1 link that's at the top of the LA Talk Radio website, which you're on again right now. Look for the show Question Reality in the time slot of Sunday at 5, and click the link. And it'll take you directly to the archive page, and you can check out our past guests. You can hit play. That'll play the show immediately. If you click on download, that you can download the show directly to your computer. You would right-click and do a save as. And you can also download any of the shows from the podcast section on iTunes. We are on iTunes. And we would love for you to call in and ask questions or provide comments on any guest of our show. So we ask, though, that you call between 5:20 and 5:30. And that way it gives the guest a chance to acclimate. We take your calls directly, so you don't have to go through a screening process. So that should make you happy. Now, the call-in number is right in front of you if you're listening to us live right now. But just in case you aren't, the phone number is area code 323-203-0815. Again, 323-203-0815. Now, we have a fantastic guest for you today, and his name is Charlie DEMOS, and we are going to talk about a lot of things today, and he's going to have a lot of tips and advice on how you too can get started as an independent artist. But I just wanted to take a moment, eating a baby roof when I shouldn't. I just want to take a moment to let you guys know, if you haven't already heard today, that actress Brittany Murphy died this morning. Oh my God, she was only 32 years old. And it seems like her mom, from what I understand from reading, I hope I get this correct. I think I did get facts from E! News, so it's pretty accurate. It sees her mom found her unconscious in the shower. She called paramedics. They arrived just after 8 a.m., and they immediately started administering CPR, and then they rushed her to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, which is a hospital here in L.A. But she went into full cardiac arrest, and she was pronounced dead at 10:04 a.m. at Cedars-Sinai. I was just so devastated because I love Brittany Murphy. You know, Albert, my husband, and I had seen her in a sci-fi movie a couple months ago, and she was, God bless her, she was so thin. She was obviously anorexic. She was so thin, the poor little thing couldn't even stand on her own legs, and they had her in this action-packed sci-fi alien murder-chasing scene. I thought, oh, God, she's just going to break into a million pieces right there. God bless her. But she looked very ill and I thought, God, somebody's got to help her. So if you guys don't know who Brittany Murphy is, you should, but in case you don't, she basically she became like a household name in 1995. She was the sidekick of one of my favorite films, Clueless, with Alicia Silverstone, and she went from like this awkward kind of wallflower girl in the movie to this snotty hottie, and she also kind of did that in her theatrical life as well, in her acting career. She's been in like 25 movies. She's been in 8 Mile, Girl Interrupted, Don't Say a Word, Sin City, and a couple years ago she released that single called what was it called? Faster Kill Pussycat, and that was like a dance club hit. Yeah, that was like the scene. So she was going to start pursuing a career in music, but I don't know what happened. I know she's from New Jersey, and she came here, and I know that she got her first role on Blossom, the show Blossom, which is like a long time ago, but I watched it. And she went from, I guess a lot of people out here, a lot of females, they really fall victim to the well, if you weigh over 100 pounds, it's like you're too pudgy for Hollywood. So I guess she fell victim to that. There was talk about her getting plastic surgery, but she ended up on Maxim's 100 Hottest Women in 2003. But God, lately she had been having so many problems. I have some friends that live in her vicinity, and they were telling me how she was calling the police and saying she heard gunshots, and it turns out it's her generator at her house. God bless her. And, she was just frantic all the time, and she was just having a hard time. So I'm so sad to hear that she died, but I sure hope that she finds peace in the afterlife. But God bless her. So that is Brittany Murphy, 32 years old. Very, very, very sad. So God bless you, Brittany. Okay, so we are moving on to a more fun, happy topic, and that would be Charlie DEMOS. And let me tell you a little bit about him. I'm sure he can tell you a lot more than me, but I know a little bit. He is, from what I understand, from Steve at Grapevine Public Relations. He is one of the latest sizzling white hot, I would imagine, Brooklyn-based indie pop artist on the music scene. Now, he's a vocalist, he's a lyricist, he's a pianist, composer, producer, and a live performer. So he is just got his 10 fingers ready to go at any time. And his music covers a wide range of styles, including electric pop, and I understand there's like some Middle Eastern intricacies involved with that. And he previously released 2 full-length studio albums, and he just, most recently, his debut music video for his first single, Insane, off of his new CD titled Anatomy 1, was named one of Logo's ultimate queer videos. Now, we got to talk to him about that, because I don't know what makes an ultimate queer video, so we got to find out what makes the ultimate queer video. We got to find out the scoop. And it has remained on the top 10 list since March. So he's currently in the studio, I think, recording his follow-up CD entitled Anatomy 2. He might be finished with that. My information might be old, but we'll check with him on that. And we do want to say that his debut album, which was in 2006, had 3 chart-topping radio hits, and one of them was entitled Don't Ever Stop. The album's first single appeared in the highly acclaimed film A Four-Letter Word, and that premiered in May 2007 at the Miami GLBT Film Festival. And the debut album was written and arranged by Charlie, also in co-production from the Grammy Award-winning producer Tommy Farragher. And basically it's been described as a smooth ride of jazzy R&B with some catchy hooks and some bluesy ballads. So you can't get much better than that unless you go with my favorite Boy George. But okay, all right, I'm not talking about Boy George. I love my Boy George. Okay, so now with the release of his sophomore album, which is, oh my God, look at this, How to Be a Boy. Now, I don't know, I didn't plan that. I did not plan that not at all. Now, how to be a boy, and it's not B-O-Y, it's spelled B-O-I, which I'm very curious to find out why that is spelled that way. And Charlie has basically, from what I understand, he's revolutionized the way we listen to pop music. Now, pop music for me, I haven't listened to much pop music since the 80s, because I tell you, I don't like what's been happening in the 90s and the 2000s, but apparently he's revolutionized it. So he's done this by seamlessly mixing like unique sounds and styles, and he gets a lot of help from these fearless producers, and I understand he's worked with Devin Perry and engineers like Farragher, and he's apparently like a sonic bartender. And he's concocted a musical drink for those that's looking to have fun and dance and relax and just be inspired by the strong-willed, witty lyrics. So that definitely is me. Now, I know I personally listened to, I had a choice of some songs to choose for the show today, and I loved all of them, but I do have to admit that my favorite one was Insane. So that's the one I chose. I hope he doesn't get mad at me. Let's find out if he's mad at me, but we're going to play that at the end of the show, so you have to wait for the entire show to hear this song, and it's fantastic. It's lovely. I love it. So was that okay, Charlie DEMOS?
Hi, how are you? Yeah, that's totally fine. That's great.
There were so many to choose from, but I don't know. My toes started tapping, and I started doing the Cabbage Patch. So I'm like, yeah, that's the one. We got to do the Insane.
You got to go with what you groove to.
That's right. I was breaking out my Jackson moves, and I said, that's the one, breaking out the moves. So let me ask you a question. First of all, let's start with that one thing that I'm very curious about. When you, the logo is, for people who don't know what that is, the logo is, why don't you explain what logo is? And I want to know how your video ended up on the Ultimate Queer Videos, and how the hell do we all get an Ultimate Queer Video?
Well, Logo is a subsidiary of MTV, which is a subsidiary of Viacom, and Logo essentially is the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered culture, music, and arts channel. So how it got on, I had a wonderful director, Matt Kliegman, who put together a really edgy, dark, sort of guerrilla-style indie video, and my publicist, the Grapevine Public Relations, had a huge hand in getting it on there. And once it was on, it was really the people that watched the show that voted week after week and kept it on there. And it was ultimately all the people, across the whole nation that voted onto the Ultimate Queer Videos top 10.
So that's a title that they have on Logo under that category. The Ultimate Queer Video is under the GLBT category, right?
Right. Well, essentially what it was they have a top 10 every week.
Okay.
And then for Gay Pride, they had a special Ultimate Queer Videos of the Year sort of a thing, and I was voted onto that very, very luckily, and I'm very thankful for that. Very wonderful.
Hey, it's good to be nominated for anything these days. I mean, who doesn't want to be nominated for anything that's a career booster? So I imagine that really helped. I don't know if it helped tremendously, but I'm sure it helped somehow. And what did it do for you?
Oh, it helped me. It helped me with my career tremendously. It totally took my career to the next level, and I was able to book more and more live shows, and have people in the community here in New York City just come up to me and tell me how much they love my work, and my face was put with the sound. So for the very first time in my career, people that didn't come to the shows necessarily could place my face and my style visually with my sound. So it was tremendously helpful.
That's fantastic. Now, Charlie, why don't you take us back? Way back, and tell us, how did you discover that you wanted to be a singer-songwriter? How were you just sitting there and all of a sudden somebody put a bongo in your hand or what?
No, well, I mean, I was and you can, anyone will attest to this. I've always, growing up, I've always wanted to be the center of attention with any crowd. I always wanted to be saying something interesting or funny or storytelling from a very, very early age. But I didn't actually find that I wanted to do music till I was in high school going into college. I had sung in choirs and things like that, but I was never one for rules. I was never one, I always sang whatever I wanted and often got into a lot of trouble in the choirs for not being, in line with everyone else. So when I went to college, I knew that I wanted to do something creative and expressive and create some sort of art. And I went to Bennington College, which, as everyone knows, is, an art school and it's very liberal. And I really just flourished there, and they encouraged me to experiment with dance and with movement and with sound and with music, and I eventually fell very seriously into a music major and fell in love with composing and the creative freedom that you're able to have, writing and singing your own work and getting up in front of a bunch of people and just pouring your heart out through songs to me was very, very appealing, was very cathartic, and was very transformative for me. So ever since I got into college, I knew that's what I wanted.
So you were lucky enough to take that route. So while you were in college, were you performing while you were going to school, doing shows, anything?
Well, I was the campus, one of the main campus performers. I was doing shows all the time, and it kind of overloaded me when I was in college because I had classes to take as well. But I was very fortunate at Bennington for curriculum. I designed my own curriculum essentially, so I was able to take the classes and the courses that I wanted from day one. So whatever performance and music and voice and dance, and I could take that all right at the beginning without having to take history and things I didn't want to take.
Right.
I was able to jump right into what I was most passionate about exploring. So
right.
I was performing a lot.
Wait, so what classes do you, if someone else is listening to this and they want to pursue a career similar to yours, what classes do you feel they should take? What are the best classes to take if they want to become an independent singer-songwriter? What do you recommend?
Well, that's a tricky road because I was fortunate enough in college to have a few really great mentors that gave me technical skills musically and advised me artistically. But the lessons you learn outside of school, doing open mic nights, performing, networking, being in the music scene of any city that you're in, that's, I feel, really a vast amount of life experience, but I feel like that's really made me a better performer. I mean, my college professors and mentors gave me the tools and set me forth on the road, and then it was my responsibility to kind of carve out what I was doing. So I definitely think that to take a lot of technical classes in theory and performance classes where you can perform and be very comfortable with performing, to then move to a city like New York and just do it.
Right.
It's the real work. I feel.
Right. Now, did you take all different types of classes like jazz and blues or theory?
Yeah. I was. I first started taking classical voice, studying classical music, which it was. I knew it was something I had to do for technique and to get my voice to a point where I was able to perform. But I fell in love with jazz and blues and jazz arranging and jazz piano and jazz vocals, and that's really the classes I focused on in college.
Do you really think? Do you recommend that everybody starting out who wants to be a great vocalist that they should take the classical training? A lot of people don't agree with that, but do you agree with that? Do you think it's mandatory, or do you think you should? What do you feel?
I don't think it's mandatory. But I think it's very important to be technically aware of what you're doing. And I think the celebrities out there and the other artists that are out there that say, I don't have any training, I don't know what notes I'm hitting, that's really not true. That's some fantastical thing that they want people to believe they woke up singing amazingly. That does not happen.
Really?
I mean, I've been studying voice for 13 and a half years, and I still study as a professional musician. I still have a voice teacher. So I don't think that it's something that I definitely suggest it. I don't think that you don't have to study opera per se, but you definitely need to have the technical tools to be able to be free. I mean, if you want to be really free, you have to lay the groundwork and build up the muscle, and then just go with it. You know.
Right. And how important are doing those vocal exercises? Did you do them, and do you still do them?
And it's really funny because I just came from a day of rehearsal. I'm doing a show on January 2nd. I don't open my mouth to sing unless I have done vocal exercises. I've done them for the entire time that I've studied. And the only reason why I'm able to continue to do singing and music is because I take care of my instrument.
Right. So, yes, you do have to do those vocal exercises.
Yes, do them.
Just like a musician has to practice their instrument every day. My God, it's a lot of hard work. We because I'm not a singer, I try, but things happen that are just ungodly coming out of my mouth. But my husband is a jazz guitar player, and oh my God, every day it's like on that guitar, and he says you have to do it. And I mean, people who are non-singers, we hear all these great singers, and we wonder, I wonder if they had to do vocal exercises. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted more than anything to be a singer, not professionally, but just to be able to sing without cracking and doing all these things I don't want to do when I hear it in my head, but it just doesn't come out the same way. But I just did not like the repetition of the vocal exercises, but I understand exactly how it's just so important. So yes, people say to me, "Are you sure?" I want you to ask your singers if they need to do that every day. Do you still have to do it every day, or do you just do it before performances? Do you recommend?
I'm the type of person that will do it every day, just because I feel like I'm fortunate enough to have the instrument, and I should make sure that it's at its peak all the time. But I've been accused of over-practicing. I've been accused of working a little too hard at it. But I think that's better than not working hard enough, to be quite honest. So.
Right. Use it or lose it, honey. Now, who were some of your early influences? Like, who really rocked your boat?
Growing up, I mean, I was all about Madonna, of course. I mean, I don't know who a child of the 80s that really wasn't.
Right.
And definitely George Michael, Nina Simone. I loved her. And you know who was one of my biggest idols is Wendy O. Williams.
Oh, I don't know who that is. I think that
Wendy she was the lead singer of the Plasmatics. It was a punk rock group. And she was a performance artist, an activist. I mean, she was the real deal. She had a platinum mohawk and would smash TVs and drive her car through. It was, crazy performance art sort of thing.
Wow, I am so surprised. I've never heard of her. I'm going to have to go look her up.
Yeah, she's pretty rad. And, I'm influenced now by, Prince is a huge influence, and I feel like my number one influence right now is Peaches. I think Peaches is amazing. She's a prolific songwriter and performer, and my dream is to support Peaches on her next tour. I'm working for it. I want to be on that tour with her. So.
Well, you got to talk to Steve and say, honey, you better be making it happen.
I know, right?
Make it happen. Well, that's good. Now, I understand that you do live performances. When you do a performance, do you personally create the show, choreograph it, and choose the songs, or are you usually just a performer within a show?
Oh, no, I have absolute creative input and control over all my shows. Of course, I compose all the music, and I will sound design the song specifically for the show. I have a team that I work with that are an amazing group of people. Choreographer Tyler, who's really amazing, and I have a couple backup dancers. I have a stylist and also a makeup person as well. So my stylist Andrew is amazing. He has all this Grace Jones, David Bowie looking sort of clothes and costumes that he'll just put me and the dancers in depending on the theme of the show, and he's just really great. And my makeup artist, of course, is really amazing. So it is my concept, but I have a lot of help and a lot of support from amazing people. I'm really thankful to have that team. We're like a little family, so it's very nice. It's very nice.
So how did that come to be? Did you just decide, well, you know what? A lot of actors, for example, a lot of actors say, well, you know what? I'm not happy with the way my career is going with waiting around for agents to call me. I'm going to start writing and producing and doing my own thing and doing a one-woman show, because sometimes you do have to you actually should always take charge of your career and not wait around for other people to call you. How was it that you decided to put your own little show together, your own little group of people? What was the catalyst for that?
Well, there's a couple things. I mean, I was always taught by my mentors in college, Kitty Brazelton and Tom Bogdan, never to be at the mercy of anyone else. If you can do as much for yourself as possible. So that means for me composing, producing, singing, and arranging my own music. I mean, music is my strong suit. I know my strengths and my weaknesses really well, and I play to them. I'm very sonic. I'm very auditory. Music and sound design and vocals. So my weaknesses are visuals. I'm not a very visual person because I'm a musician. I feel like I'm not blessed with both, the visual aesthetic. So I reach out to people that are very visually sharp and very visually creative, and I reach out to people that are very creative with movement, which is really one of my other strong suits. So I think it's about knowing your limits, how much you can do, and also knowing your strengths. So I implore people that have those strengths that I don't have, and when we come together, it's one strong, fierce show. Hopefully, it is. So
that is excellent. So what now? How do you decide where you're going to do your next show, or where you want to go in your next show? How does that decision-making process happen of where you want to do your next show?
Well, as of late, I mean, I was just kind of doing whatever I could. But over the past year, since success of the video, and I've been doing a lot more shows, I've had a chance to perform at amazing events that I've wanted to perform at as a dream come true. For example, Webster Hall, I got to perform there. It was an amazing experience. And I like to perform at venues that are a little bit more alternative and that have a crowd of diverse clientele, and a more of a performance artsy type of venue that has a really artistic vibe to it, and it's a very free vibe. What
are some of the places that you can you name some of the places?
Well, I performed at Webster Hall, which was great, and I got an opportunity to perform with the Cockettes, who are from the 1960s and 70s, this gay theater troupe out of San Francisco. Who, if anybody doesn't know about them, just go to Cockettes and get the documentary. It's amazing. They're this amazing artistic group of people. And there's a few that are still alive, and one of them came here to do a show and an art exhibit, and I got to perform at that, and that was like a total trip. It was like being in a David Lynch movie. It was great. It was like one of those experiences that you can't ever force. It just happens.
Right.
And I also got to perform at this wonderful venue that I'm performing at again on January 2nd called Hypergender Burlesque. Hypergender Burlesque is a lesbian and transgendered performance art review. It's an amazing, groundbreaking show. I performed it in October. I was lucky enough to be asked back, so thankfully. So I'm going to be in that January 2nd.
And where is that again? Where's that going to be again?
That's at the Wow Cafe Theater on the Lower East Side of New York City, where where I live.
Is that going to be on your website,
or
how would people find out where to see you in that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll be on my calendar on the website. And,
okay. So if they just go to charliedemos.com and look on your calendar, they can see that because that's coming up real soon. So I imagine it is on your calendar and all, and the address and all that information is on there. Because that sounds fun. Yeah. That sounds fun. What are you going to be doing in there? Tell me some of the things you're going to be doing. You're going to be singing and performing, and what else is happening there?
Well, my piece, each month, they have hypergender burlesque every month, and this month's theme coming up is professional. So me and my dancers are contract killers, and it's a performance piece, and I'm going to be performing a new song off my EP, Anatomy 2. I'm performing a song called Shatter My Heart that I just finished, and it's debuting at Hypergender Burlesque. So aside from my performance there's going to be an amazing array of performance artists, and the two founders of Hypergender, Jay-Z Bitch and NC-17. They're amazing.
I love those names.
I know.
You got to get yourself a name. Wait a minute now. You got to change your name. Your name is too James Bond. You got to get a name like that. What are we going to call you? I toyed for a while with having a stage name, but ultimately I feel like I don't want to create a persona that's not me. I very much pride myself on being myself, and each performer has each his own. You know what I mean? Each performer has their own prerogative, but I feel like for me, when I get up there and I bare my soul, whether or not I'm playing a role or not in a particular piece, ultimately the music is Charlie Demos, which is my real name. So I just keep it. It's we love it. We love it. I want to see you dressed as a James Bond character with that name and to do something. Absolutely. That sounds like a good show. I can see you whipping those glasses off because you look really good in those glasses. I don't know if you saw the flyer that we sent out, but you just look
thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. But you look good in those glasses. I can see you in the whole suit and whipping it off, and then tearing your suit off with one of those tearaway suits. I'm already visioning it. I'm going to have to request a private show now, Charlie.
Wow.
Well, that sounds like fun, and I'm hoping everybody goes to see your show. Is this a public event where you pay, or is it private?
It's open to the public. It's $5, and it's really wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful event. I can't stress enough how thankful I am that they hired me back, because they were really a bunch of amazing ladies, and I feel I'm one of the first man ever really to perform at that event. I'm very lucky to be in their company. So well, I hope there's lots of pictures and some video that you can put on your website so we can see it who won't be able to get there, like in California. So I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that. Now, let's talk about your last album. Now, I wanted to ask you about the spelling of that. Your last album was entitled How to Be a Boy, B-O-I, and that was released in 2008. First of all, where did that name come from? It's very clever, How to Be a Boy. Tell me about it. It's actually a really funny story, ultimately, but when I first moved here, it's funny that you mentioned Brittany Murphy and her anorexia, because I am anorexic. I'm recovered, but when I first came here, I struggled with that a lot, and I struggled with where I was going to fit in within the gay community and the pressures within the gay community being, in the gay community, there's very, very few archetypes to fill. You can fill the very muscular macho man, or you can fill the very thin effeminate man, and if you're anywhere in between, you're kind of invisible. So when I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Yes. Thank you for that. Because a lot of people time. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. Yeah, no. So when I first moved here, I had a hard time. I'm a very strong personality. I've always been an individual, but I had a very hard time fitting in because I wasn't into the club scene. I wasn't into going to the gym for 7 hours a day or doing, or doing drugs or drinking. I wanted to do my music. I wanted to make music. I wanted to make art. Right. So my first record was sort of a demo of sorts. It was just sort of like a bunch of demo tapes I put together and put out, and it actually sold fairly well, and one of the songs got in a feature film, which is great. But I was being really safe, and I was being this soft, this soft, sweet person that I thought that I thought this community wanted ultimately. So How to Be a Boy was really a little bit more aggravated. It was kind of like my response to being pigeonholed when I didn't want to be. So ultimately, How to Be a Boy for me is being yourself and not worrying about being stick thin or really muscular or really tan or really blonde or really drugged out or really scene queen or really this or really that. Just being yourself and not really giving a blank what other people think about you.
Right.
Because I never really did give very much thought to what other people thought of me until I came here and was wanting to be accepted by a community. And I spelled BOI that way because I always, when I grew up, the club kids and, the Michael Alec and, all these amazing Kenny Kennys and these people were always, the boys, BOI, because it, it alluded to the fact that they were like a Peter Pan. They never got old. They weren't men. They weren't women. They were boys. So there was kind of like an androgyny in there, which I thought was really clever and cute. But the funny story behind it is a trans group, a trans female-to-male transsexuals group contacted me, and they're like, "We're so proud that you're representing our community." And I'm very much for, I love transsexuals. I have a lot of friends that I'm fully in support of them. I love them. They're part of our community. But I thought it odd. I was like, "Oh, that's really, thank you." They thought I was a transsexual male because BOI is what transsexual males call themselves, and I thought it was great. I was like, I'm not one, but thank you anyway. It just so happens that those two crossed that way. But it's fine with me. I think we're all one big family, so it's fine.
One big happy for all related somehow, right?
Exactly.
Now, your newest album, Anatomy 1. Now, I heard it's got some things like biology, science, and robots, which it's about the difference between biology, science, and robots. Tell me about that. That sounds very, very odd, but I love it. Tell me.
Well, I was inspired by this film called Anatomy of Hell, and it's a French film by Catherine Breillat, who is an extremist filmmaker. And it's a mind trip. This movie is really explicit. It's very visceral. It's very it's French cinema, so
right, of course,
out there. And it's called Anatomy of Hell. So I was thinking about constantly leader roles and gender identity in my why do women have to be a certain way and why do men have to be a certain way and the pressures of society and all this and that. So I thought anatomy would be interesting to explore from two different sides, from a very scientific, biological, analytical side, Anatomy 1, which is the first part of the EP, and then exploring it from a very natural, nature, magic, these and see how the two interplay. Science versus nature. This age-old push and pull that's been throughout all history and societies. Is this science versus nature sort of a thing.
And how do you come up with songs you come up with the idea? How do you come up with songs that are related to that? That's so fascinating.
I don't necessarily go about it with the concept looming over. I write what I write, and I find ways to incorporate that concept into the writing as it's coming through. Actually, thinking that the project was called Anatomy, the title track, Anatomy, was actually the hardest song to compose because I was thinking to myself, okay, I called this project Anatomy. What do I have to say in 3.5 minutes of the actual song Anatomy?
Right. So, that's what I'm wondering, too.
Yeah. It's challenging. But I think that the anatomy theme has to do with the mind and the heart and the soul, and that being, what your soul is the core of who you are, not necessarily your sex. or your gender or the role that, you're born a woman and you're born a man, and immediately there's all of these things that you're obligated in society to fulfill. And that's, to me, that's just really stifling and antiquated and really just kind of, it doesn't make sense to me. So I kind of wanted to showcase the release of that and kind of the renunciation of those roles and,
so that
get away from that and just be individuals.
So that must have, so obviously that Anatomy 1 must have pleased you so much because you have the upcoming second part, which is Anatomy 2. Are we going to go for Anatomy 3 or what, are we stopping at Anatomy 2? What's going on with Anatomy 2?
Well, Anatomy 2 is the end of the Anatomy project, obviously, but it is the natural, earthy, magical goddess Shakti sort of part of it. It's dark and light, very much like Anatomy 1, but it's more released. It's not contained. It's not as precise. It's a little more wild. So Anatomy 2 completes Anatomy 2 is the moon to Anatomy 1's sun, sort of. It kind of completes the project.
So the songs overall, if you had to say that are they pop, are they jazz, are they blues, are they, what are most of them, or is it just an eclectic mix?
Well, it's definitely electronic because my music is, but I think that it is pop. I definitely think it's pop always. I mean, I always think I make pop music, but it's a little bit more experimental. It's a little bit more. I'm taking some songs out of the pop formula and making it a little bit more experimental, but still accessible, I think, to a pop and dance music, pop music audience.
So it sounds good. So I just heard a couple of them, and I love it. Now, the one that I chose was that's Insane. Is that off of Anatomy 1 or Anatomy 2?
That's the first single off Anatomy 1, and that's the song that the video does so well, and I love that song. I feel like I don't create the songs. I feel like they come through me, and I birth them, sort of, and I feel like Insane is my first baby that's really gotten a chance.
Did you just say that you burp them?
I give birth to them, of course.
You're saying birth, B-I-R-T-H. I thought you said you burp them, B-U-R-P. And I'm like,
no, I definitely encourage them along the way, but I feel like they're each song is a child in a way, and I feel like Insane is done so well. Play it. I would love for you to play it. I'm so happy that you're able to be on the show.
We're closing out the show with that. We'll end at 50. It's 5:43. But I want to talk to you about how you produce your other albums through your own record label. I understand your record label is called Soulful Boy, BOY Records, and tell me about that.
Well, I've, as you know, I'm a composer and I produce for other artists, and as well as myself. So it's just a matter of being in the New York City scene, really, and meeting other artists that, compose for themselves, and they say, I'd really like to work with you and write something with you. I've had a wonderful opportunity to compose an off-Broadway multimedia project with a Danish singer-actress, an amazing, talented singer-actress named Annette Norgard. She's amazing, and I produced that and wrote the music for that, as well as sound designed it. And I just finished writing my backup dancer and choreographer's first single. His name's Tyler Haygood, and he's out performing that now, performing all around the city, getting his chops, getting his, legs performing. And important to, have a publishing company and have a record label. I'm an indie artist. I'm not on someone else's major label. So it's important for me to have control over that. I mean, if as an indie artist, if you don't have control over it, no one else does. So you might as well take the reins. So how does
do you, as an independent artist who has your own record label, how do you make a full-time income from that, or do you have to, because I know a lot of musicians say, I want to start my own label, and I wonder, how does one make a living doing that?
I think that the mistake that a lot of musicians, particularly singers, get into is that they want to do one thing. And I'm a musician and an artist, so I do music of all. I mean, I write. I work on people's demos. I work in a recording studio. I compose. I sound design. I perform. All of those things I'm able to do because I'm not only a singer but also a composer. So I think it's important to diversify yourself within your own specific field. I learned that at Bennington. I mean, again, thank you to my college mentors that helped me say, really make sure that your craft is really honed and is really, tight and good, but diversify yourself artistically so you're able to work in your own field, but and have your hand in different things.
I see. So what would you recommend? How would you grow as an indie artist in New York? Just a couple
biggest
tips.
The biggest tips are just to go out and perform as much as possible in the beginning. I mean, if you're serious about it, you can do an open mic night every night in the city. Meet other artists. Just go to other gigs. Go to people's shows. Go to as many live concerts as you can. Network with people, and that's what I did. I mean, I built up a huge amount of contacts over the course of 4.5 years, 5 years, and when I first moved here, I was doing an open mic night every night I was doing it. So, and
make sure you get email addresses, right? Start your email contact list. A lot of times musicians, they go out and they perform because they're thinking about the artistic side, and it's very, very hard for them to remember to do the business side. But when it comes down to it, music is a business. So, I mean,
absolutely.
You gotta always be focused. Yeah, you're going out there performing, but after you leave, have you taken any email addresses with you? Have you promoted yourself enough? You got to remember that. Is that something that you recommend as well?
Yeah. I mean, I am a classic case of I'm an artist. I'm sensitive. I'm very intuitive. I want to be an artiste and be in my environment, whatever. But I feel like the business side of it manifested out of a necessity to protect myself because my art is my life, but this is my career that I've chosen. So that business-minded, shrewd, that cuts off the emotion to get the business done is almost like a different side of me that has manifested based on the necessity to be protected in this industry. I mean, I'm my own business. I don't have a choice. No one else is. My publicists are amazing and they support me, and I love them for that. And I have my team here that's very supportive. But when I manage myself, and I deal with money and negotiating money with venues, it's very rough. And they don't want to respect you unless you demand them to respect you. And, be the utmost professional. Don't, doing drugs backstage, hanging out. No, you have to be professional because this is a job too. So it's very important to, maintain integrity and professionalism, I think. And it can be hard in an art scene because there is, the drugs and the booze and this and that, but you have to you can't deal with that. You have to deal with the art and the business.
Absolutely. Well, you know what we're going to deal with right now? We're going to deal with Charlie DEMOS, Insane, the clip, because we've heard him talk, we've heard his great, wonderful tips, we've heard his advice, we heard about him. Now let's see how to be a boy, who he's already a boy, but we are going to see but we're going to hear his wonderful voice, and we are going to hope that everybody comes out on January 2nd. Give it to me one more time, and then we're going to close it out with your song, but I want to say thank you so much for being on the show, and you feel free to come back and promote anything that you want anytime in the new year. My door is always open to you, sweetie.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate your time and your effort. I really do, and giving so many wonderful tips to my guests. So tell us one more time where you're going to be, and then we're going to take it out, baby.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm going to be at Hypergender Burlesque at the Wow Cafe Theater on Saturday, January 2nd at 10 p.m., so I hope I can see everybody there.
And that's
Thank
New
you so
York.
much. Happy holidays.
That's New York, baby. New York, Lower
Yes,
East
New York.
Side.
That's
All right,
right, always.
Charlie. God bless, and I'll see you soon. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, baby.
You too. Thank you.
Do you need a website but don't think that you can afford one? Do you dread the thought of even doing the research to find a company that you can afford? Do you cringe because you know that the person you talk to will try to sell you more than the advertised price? At Design on a Dime websites, we pride ourselves in being able to design original, professional, efficient, creative, and extremely affordable websites. Your website design will load fast, be customized to fit your needs and vision, and be presented in a clear, concise, and easy-to-read format with user-friendly link navigation. We challenge you to find a company that has lower prices and better customer service with beautiful, original designs. So, gather some dimes together and call us today at 213-687-6903 or visit us on the web at designonadime.us for your personal consultation with a very friendly representative who will be able to give you a great website that fits your budget.
You're listening to Question Reality. Question Reality with Priscilla Leona. Only on LA Talk Radio.